Hi, and welcome to Achieve with Carolina Live. I'm Carolina Romaniuk, child and family sleep specialist and founder of Achieve with Carolina, and soon to be co-founder of yourchildsleepmanual.com. So excited. I help families to get a good night's sleep and to understand more about their children's sleep needs. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is one very pressing parental question that I get from parents, and it's about bedtime. It's about, does bedtime always have to be 8 o'clock? Does it always have to be 9 o'clock? My kid goes to sleep at 10 or 11 and I don't know what to do. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Hey, Diana. So if you have any friends, family, relatives, coworkers, colleagues that that kind of talk about bedtime all the time, they don't know what time it should be, or they keep the day flexible and bedtime is always a set standard time. If you know of anyone like that, make sure that you highlight their name on this video so then they get to watch it. Please like it and share it. Sharing is caring, and I love it. I really do appreciate all the shares that I get and all the likes in the video. So let's keep the conversation flowing. Hey, Sabina. I'm sorry I'm so late, guys. I had to finish something up, but I'm here live. So we're going to be talking tonight about bedtime. And, does it have to be flexible or does it have to be consistent? So I'm going to wait a little more on, until we get a couple more people on. And I guess for now we can kind of chit chat, just you guys and me. So how was your day? In New York, it's raining, it's shitty weather, my hair is like one big frisball. People are getting sick left, right, and center. It's horrible. I had to pause so many of my clients working with cases with them because their little ones are getting sick. So, hey Patricia. Diana, you said you got mine in bed at 9 p.m. Still swaddled though, but dream fed at 11:30, trying to go down to 8 p.m. Cool. Sounds like you got things handled. Nice job, Diana. Yay! Thumbs up. So I guess we'll start. I'm seeing that we're getting a lot more people on. Hi, Esther. It takes you an hour every night to put your 22-month-old to bed, and he falls asleep at 9 p.m. every night. Okay, so I guess this is a really good topic to talk about tonight. And, you said, yeah, you went cold turkey? Okay. So Dan, it sounds as though you already have some sort of a plan put down together for you. So it's a good thing that you're staying, consistent on that. So let's get down to the question. I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight because I know you guys want to get some sleep too. So bedtime should be flexible. And I know you're going to probably say, well, Carolina, how is that possible? They have to be in bed at a certain time. Yes, that's true, my darlings. They do have to be in bed at a certain time, but bedtime should always be flexible. Hey, Victoria. Thank you. Thanks so much. So, reason why bedtime has to be flexible is because remember how I always say that nighttime is a reflection of daytime sleep, and that is what you need to focus on as well. You shouldn't just say, oh my gosh, naps can go whenever, however, wherever, and la-ti-da, and then bedtime, bam, 8 o'clock every night, bam, 7 o'clock every night, bam, 9 o'clock every night. No, it doesn't work that way. Bedtime has to be flexible. So you should know approximately how many hours your little one needs in total for naps during the day. You need to make sure that you know their rhythms with what time they get tired during the day. You want to make sure that you know the difference between your little one's tired cues versus their overtired cues. So just a kind of a recap for you guys. Tired means when they're kind of just staring into space like that, and they're not interested in anything. They're kind of just zoning out. That's one thing that's a couple of things that you want to look into. If they start rubbing on their ear, if they start yawning, if they start rubbing their eyes. Some toddlers like to lie on the floor. My kids used to do that. Those are indications that they're already getting into the overexhausted state, and you don't want that to happen. So knowing those cues, knowing their tired cues is very, very, very important. And bedtime has to be flexible. So you always want to keep the naps at their proper times, meaning when their body produces melatonin at its highest peak. So you want to do that. And understanding their tired cues as well is a very important factor. So if they're getting really shitty naps, during the day, let's say it's like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, which during the day is one sleep cycle, right? You want naps to be at least 1 hour. Thanks guys for liking, yay! Make sure that you can share this video, click right below, right over there. The share button, and thanks for liking so much. So to get back onto the topic, when you are placing your little one down for bedtime, it has to be flexible. So if naps are really shitty, that means that they're not getting enough sleep during the day, right? That means that sleep has been taken away from them, so you need to give it back. And how do we give it back? By bumping up bedtime. Yup, my early emergency bedtime. So I'm known as the early bedtime gal. I love it. It helps so much. It helps to alleviate nighttime wakings. Of course, it's not going to work, on first try. Most cases it does, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes a couple of times to do an early bedtime. It depends also on how long the naps are going really shitty for. Maybe it was, a couple of days. Maybe it's a couple of months. Maybe it's just, 1 day. And then you need to get back on track. So what you would do is you would bump up bedtime. Sometimes it's a half an hour early. Sometimes it's an hour early. It really depends on the lack of sleep during the day. So that is, hey Angelica. So that is the answer to the question for tonight. Again, for people that are just signing on, what we are talking about, should bedtime be a consistent time, like a set time? No, we don't want it to be a set time. It should always be flexible. What we do want to be a set time is naps. Naps have a specific need to them. Daytime, first nap in the morning is mental restoration. Second nap in the afternoon is physical restoration. If your child has a third nap, let's say they're between 4 and 8 months, they might have 3 naps. Ideally, they will. And that third nap is just a bridge gap between second nap and bedtime, just to hold over the little one. And that's usually like 30 to 45 minutes. You don't really want it to be longer than that. And most naps should be at least an hour long. So if they're shorter than that, then we would kind of want to look into why they're short. Maybe the environment is not as healthy as it should be or conducive to sleep. Maybe when they wake up, someone just runs into the room and, kind of awakens them right away, and then they'll be fully aroused, and then it's really hard for them to go back to sleep. So you kind of want to look into those aspects on that part. So hope that answers your questions, guys. Hey Lana, hey Eddie, hi Esther. So hold on, let me just take a sip of my Ninja Turtle water. Hold on. I talk so much, I get so parched. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna answer some questions. So if you guys have questions, let me know right in the comments. I'm going to start scrolling. Let's see. Okay. Angelica, I mentioned the topic. You say here, does the nap time stay the same if he wakes up at different times? Yes. So nap time has to stay the same. Nap time does, it is affected by the time of the waking for the day. So you always want to have a set waking for the day. Anywhere between 6 and 7 in the morning is really good. Some children are early natural risers, so depending on their age, they might just be, no matter what you've tried, they might just naturally wake up around 5:30. So sorry, my eye itches. So you want to make sure that naps fall into their proper time, but they also have to fall into the proper time when your child wakes up for the day. So if they wake up later than 7, then naps start to get pushed down. And if naps get pushed down, they're pushed from their biological times, where you're kind of giving them like junk sleep, and you really don't want to do that. You want to hit at the optimal peak times. So with that said, you have your wake up time, then you have your naps, and then depending on how the naps are, then bedtime gets to be bumped up and stays not as consistent as naps. Naps and early wake up, you really want those set times and a set sleeping space for your little one. You don't want them sleeping in the living room or, you know, in a stroller and in the bedroom or, you know, in the den, kitchen, you know, bathroom, any type of room. You want them to be in a specific healthy sleep environment room, ideally a bedroom with a crib, a firm mattress, fitted sheet, them with maybe a sleep sack. Those are really good. If they're old enough, they can have a blanket, you know, just making sure that it's healthy and conducive to sleep. But again, going into your question is that early, the wake up time does set the time for the rest of the day. Eddie says, my son already has a routine, 7 p.m., starts reading books, brush teeth, sleep. Beautiful, Eddie. So that is fantastic that your son has such an awesome routine. Proud of you. Thumbs up. Awesome job. Esther says, the problem is that he doesn't sleep through the night. He has a really bad night and makes up for it during nap time about 3 hours and then has a hard time going to sleep. Yeah, so Esther, that's usually what happens with some kids when they are having lots of night wakings and they're up during the night. So there's not consistency during the sleep, during the day. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that their naps are structured, that they're not going over the quantity that they need within their sleep for their age, and keep it balanced, because sleep it's a balance. It's like a tango. So you want to make sure that naps are perfect and they're balanced according to their age with quantity and quality. You know how I always keep talking about quality is very important. You just don't want to give your child the hours of sleep, but you want to put them on at the right times and make sure that it's in the perfect environment for that aspect. And then you have your bedtime, which fluctuates depending on how much he naps during the day. If he naps too much, what happens is there's not a balance, it's imbalanced. And what it's kind of like, you know, woo. So naps are up here, bedtime is here, and you've taken away the sleep from bedtime, from nighttime, and you've replenished it during the day, and you kind of want to do the opposite. So you want to have him to have a proper amount of hours of sleep during the day, and same at night. So you don't want it to, you know, kind of go hand in hand. You want it to go hand in hand. Let's see. Hi, Viana. Eddie asks, what happens during daylight savings? The nap changes. So it depends on which daylight savings. If you're talking about fall back, you're falling back an hour. If you're talking about spring forward, you're springing forward an hour. Naps do kind of vary. It depends on how sensitive your little one is. If they don't have a sleep foundation, then their naps do get kind of thrown off of that part. But if they sleep pretty well, then they kind of go into the flow of it. But daylight savings, we've already passed that, so things should be already settled for you. If they're not, then let me know. I did include my calendar on the link above if you want to click on that, if you are having problems, Eddie, with that part. But you should be pretty good, because you know, daylight savings has kind of, the one for spring already passed like a while ago, so things should have settled for you. Let's see what else. Angelica says, so my son has to set a week times in the morning, and then if that makes sense, sometimes 7:30, 8:30. Hold on, let me open this up. Okay, so Angelica, it seems as though you're kind of going with his flow in when he looks tired. I want you to set one strict schedule for yourself for at least a week and keep a set time for the morning when he wakes up. So let's say it's 7, right? So 7 o'clock is going to be his wake up time. And then you would set the 2 naps that he would have. 2 wake times. I don't know what you mean by that. You said, so I just put him down for a nap at the same time. Yeah, you want to have the exact times every day for at least a week and keep a diary to see how the patterns are forming for yourself. Again, you have to make sure that the time that they wake up for the day, that has a waterfall effect for what the rest of the day falls into. So make sure that when he wakes up, you have that set, and it's not later than 7, because past 7, things just kind of go bonkers and they just fall, out the window at that part. So keep a set schedule on the naps, and then bedtime will be fluctuating depending on how the naps were. Okay, let's see. Hi Angel, hi Alina. Okay, so Angelica, he has 1 nap, he's 25 months. So 1 nap should be anywhere between 11:30 and 1. It depends on when he transitioned to that 1 nap, because ideally you want it to be closer towards 1. If he wakes up later in the day, you might want it towards 2. But most kids, they do pretty good on a 1 p.m. nap time. So if you transition maybe a month ago, you might be going at like 12:30ish, and then pushing it a little later and later and later the older that he gets. So keeping out that 1 nap. I hope that makes sense. Let's see, any other questions? So far, no. I'm going to take another sip of my Ninja Turtle water. Yeah, so you're saying that he wakes up later, Angelica. That's why you want to keep a strict schedule, because if he sleeps later, then naps are going to be later, and then bedtime is going to be kind of all over the place, and you are guaranteed night wakings. So we don't want that to happen. We want our little ones to be sleeping beautifully through the night, and keeping a structured schedule for wake up time and for bedtime is beneficial. I know it sucks for us as adults because we want to sleep in later, especially on the weekends, but keeping a structured time for our little ones does help significantly, especially with any night wakings. And it does kind of help us too, because it keeps us on a regimen. I know it's not the best, advice that you might want, because there's a huge difference from waking up at 7:30 to 8:30. I mean, it's an hour extra sleep for you, especially on a weekend. But ideally, we really do want our little ones to get the best sleep possible, and keeping them on a schedule is beneficial to them. Your next question is, how do I get them to wake up at the same time? So what you would do is, first, let's say it's 7 o'clock, right? He's most likely waking up later because bedtime is later and he needs a certain amount of hours. So remember how I keep saying that if you want to structure the beautiful sleep and you want to get rid of, he goes to bed at the same time, but he goes to bed at the same time because you just have a set time frame for his bedtime, but he wakes up at random times, so he can wake up anywhere between 7:30 and 8:30, you mentioned. So what I would do is have a set wake up time for him. So 7 would be like maximum capacity, and what I would do is I would either open up the blinds, let sunlight in, that automatically wakes us up. You can start maybe taking the cover off of him or undress him lightly. You want to increase his body temperature so he starts to wake up himself. I don't like that factor where you come up and you say, hey Joey, wake up, and you shake them a little. I hate that. I hate it when my husband does that to me when he tries to wake me up. I never do that, and I don't do that to children either, because that's just annoying as hell. So what I would just recommend is using the environmental aspects to try and wake them up so they naturally arise. And so if you bring sunlight into the room, we wake up automatically. Remember how light is our enemy when we're trying to sleep. And if you start taking clothes off, like socks, or maybe taking off the PJs, taking off the blanket, that increases the body temperature to warm up, and then we wake up right away from that. So that's what we want to do on that aspect, to wake him up. So 7 o'clock, I would wake him up. Then I would start from there. I would start the nap time, and then I would go to bedtime and see how that goes for at least a week. And if things are still not working out, then I suggest that you kind of contact me, so then we can dig a little deeper in what's going on and situate it from there. But keeping a sleep diary is really important for you too. Let's see who else has questions. Biana, I feel it's impossible to have consistent bedtime and naps on weekends, especially with parties and stuff. Yeah, so you have to figure out what it has a priority. Are parties more important to you, or is your little one's sleep more important to you? So also understanding how they're sleeping during the week. Now, I have this 80-20 rule that I follow with all of my clients, that I have them follow. 80% of the time, your little one has perfect sleep. So 20% of the time, you have parties, you have social activities. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you, and I don't think anyone's going to tell you, is no, you have to stick your baby in their room and they have to sleep at this time by the clock, and that's it. You have no life and kaputski. It doesn't work that way. 80% of the time, as long as they have proper sleep hygiene in place, that they're sleeping beautifully at naps and at bedtime, and then you have, birthday parties. Obviously, you want to go to social activities. But if your child is not sleeping properly during the week and you are taking away sleep during the weekend, no one is sleeping. So what I would do is, if you want to look into sleep training, sleep learning, whatever topic that you want it to include as whatever name, I would first focus on that part for at least 2 weeks to 1 month. And because usually I work a minimum of 1 month with a client to make sure that we kind of solidify everything and make sure that it's really strong with their sleep. So I would look into that first. Make sure that their sleeping is perfected, that there are no night wakings, that they're sleeping beautifully independently. And then once that's situated, that's a temporary situation. Once that's great, then you can start having more leeway and have parties and activities and things like that on the weekend, and then you'll just make up for it during earlier bedtime on the weekday, if that makes sense. So let's see. Who else has questions? Irina has a question. My 16-month-old has one nap from 12:30 to 2:30. What is the ideal time to put her to sleep at night? Right now, it's between 8 and 9. So my only question is, do they have night wakings? If they have night wakings, I would make bedtime earlier. What happens is, we usually think that 8 o'clock is a perfect bedtime, right? Because 8 p.m. is prime time, like favorite TV shows are on. We're just, ourselves, we are programmed that 8 p.m. is this magic number that we have to go to sleep, right? But if I tell you, no, it's 6 o'clock or 6:30, you're going to go, what that, Carolina, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. I've had children that went to sleep around 5:30 for bedtime the entire night, and they woke up beautifully around 6:30 the next day. Obviously, that doesn't mean that every day is around that time that they're going to sleep. That just means that that's how exhausted that they were from the lack of sleep during the day, and that's how early I had to make bedtime to compensate for the lack of sleep during the day. So what I'm trying to get at with this video is that bedtime has to be adjustable. I don't want you to have this set time in your head, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., is bedtime. And forget about what daytime does, right? No, it's a balance. Nighttime is a reflection of daytime sleep, and we want to have a nice balance effect. So, Irina, just to answer your question, naps look good. Bedtime looks pretty good. 8 and 9 is a huge difference. You need to choose one. I would go a little to the earlier side. 9 o'clock is a little late. What can happen is if your little one does go to sleep at 9 o'clock, you have passed that first sleep window. Actually, by 9, at this age, you've passed 2 sleep windows. So your little one can be sleeping anywhere between 7 and 8. And what I would do is I would look at their tired cues, keep a diary for yourself, noticing what kind of cues that they're showing you when they kind of want to go to sleep, and then go with that. Again, if you're having any problems or you're kind of not sure where to go with that, contact me. I'm always here. I don't bite. And we can schedule something and just chat a little more on what to do to help you with that. Victoria asks, nothing is more important than my kids' sleep. I organize my life around it in nap time and bedtime. Awesome, Victoria. So I used to do that when I started my career with sleep training. I became neurotic with sleep. Like, it was, I breathed it. I don't even know what else to say about it, but I breathed it. Literally, like, I would be in the morning when I would wake up, the first thing that I would do is I would calculate when nap time would be and when bedtime would be for my children. Of course, bedtime, I would have to push that out the window at first, depending on how nap times were. So I totally get you, Victoria, but you got to be a little more lenient with it. You know, we can't, yes, sleep is so important, and there is no health if there's no sleep, right? The doctor that I'm working with right now, Dr. Jordan Stern, he always says that all the time, and I love that quote, how we don't have health if we don't have sleep, because sleep is the foundation for our health, right? If we're not sleeping, our body doesn't properly function, we can't be at our fullest, and everything just kind of deteriorates from there. So without sleep, we have no health. So it's beautiful. And, you know, making sure that, yes, sleep for our little ones is our main priority within that, but you also kind of want to have fun. So having a nice balance with it, and always knowing how to get the sleep back from, you know, let's say you got bumped off a day. So for an example, let's say, you know, like the summer's coming, right? Hopefully soon. So when that happens, you know, we kind of want to go out a little more. We don't want to be home at that certain hour. Sometimes we might want our little ones to fall asleep in the stroller. You know, be a little more lenient on that. That's totally fine. As long as 80% of the time you have your little one on a more or less structured schedule. You want to be adjustable, but you also want to give them the proper sleep. So a nice balance is always good. And I learned that the hard way. But it works out, because you always have to remember that I got my kids' sleep, I got their back, I know what I'm doing, and I can always tweak it and get them back on schedule. Because they do want to experience, you know, the fun parts of life too. They don't want to just, you know, only know that it's an entire regime of like schoolwork, playing, and bedtime. You kind of want to be fun, like a fun mommy. Okay, let's see. Hi, Tanya. Eddie asks, I agree, my son on weekends does not want to take naps. However, he does rest during the day by laying down. Bedtime becomes early around 6 with the routine. Is that normal? Yes, Eddie, that is beautiful that you have such an early bedtime. So if your little one is not taking naps, at least give them quiet time during that same time that they would take naps. Some kids start to push off naps around 2-3 years old, that they, usually 2 is like the youngest, that they start to show no need for a nap, but it's bullshit. It's they really need naps. So if they are pushing it and they are playing around it, what I would do is at least give them quiet time to kind of calm down and bump up bedtime early and stick out to the schedule, because, you know, they would actually click back into taking naps if you give them the chance. We kind of how can I say this, is that we as parents, we really want the best for our children, right? So if they show something that they're not ready for it, or they are ready for it, for an example, let's say at 2 years old or a year and a half, when they throw their legs over the crib rail and they try and climb out of it, most people would think that, aha, that means that they need a toddler bed, right? But in reality, most kids are not mature enough to go from a crib to a toddler bed. Just because they're throwing their leg over doesn't mean that you need to get them a toddler bed. All that means is that they're exercising their new developmental, sector, whatever it is, if they're running, if they're walking, and they just learn this new technique that they could flip their leg over. That's all that it means. So just kind of understanding and going with the flow that if your little one decides to refuse naps, still staying consistent with it on the same time and telling them, nope, it's quiet time. You don't have to use the word nap time. You can just say it's quiet time, and maybe have like a little treasure chest of quiet time pieces, like books, coloring books, reading books, blocks, puzzles. They have calming jars. Go on Pinterest, create a vision board for yourself on a Pinterest board, and find like really cool stuff that they have. You can come up with millions of ideas on what to do, but give them time to come and have just that serenity of just one-on-one time for themselves to kind of go into zen from all the chaos and all the activity that they're doing. So that's really important to do that. I hope that answered your question, Eddie. Hi, Ina. Esfira asks, what is your opinion on naps that 3 and 4-year-olds who still nap during the day for even 1 to 2 hours, and bedtime is 7:30 to 8 p.m. and wake up at 8 a.m. So let's see. It's actually pretty good. My son, my oldest, during the weekend, he still takes naps. He's 6. So just because, he has kind of like a hectic day during the week. So it's totally good. Your schedule looks pretty good. If they're not having night wakings and they're not cranky during the day, then that's fine. If they are, then I would look into kind of a little deeper of what's going on. But so far it looks pretty good. Lena says, for 14-month-old, are 2 1-hour naps better than 1 2-hour nap? So it depends. Sometimes at this age, they start showcasing that they want like a 1 nap. Some kids start transitioning anywhere between 14 to 18 months to 1 nap. So you're pretty good on that part. You might have 2 days of 1 nap, 2 days of 2 naps, kind of going back and forth. That's normal when you're in transition mode to go through that, but it doesn't really matter at this age, as long as they are having at least 1 hour for 1 nap. And if they're having 2 naps 1 hour each, that's fine. Or if they're having you said a 2-hour 1 nap, that's also fine. You're probably in transition mode right now, so I would kind of just go with the flow with that. And when your little one is taking 1 nap, you have to pay attention to bedtime. That day, bedtime should be earlier, because what's happening is you're condensing the sleep and you're building up the sleep pressure from the nap time to bedtime. So bedtime has to be bumped up earlier. When they're taking 2 naps, you're stretching out the sleep pressure from it. So bedtime can be later. So that's kind of the benefit on that. So I would just keep a sleep diary for yourself to see how she's going through these patterns, and just make sure that you're adjusting bedtime properly for that. Sonia has a question, so let me know, guys, if you have. I'll take like a couple more questions, and then I'll close for tonight's live thread. Sonia asks, my 7-month-old will not nap more than 40 minutes in her crib, but will nap 2 hours in the stroller. Any advice? Yeah, so Sonia, it's most children at this age, it's that happens. It's because they're still learning their, well, usually by 7 months they already should have their sleep patterns intact for the day. Anywhere between 30 and 40 minutes is one sleep cycle during the day. It's usually 90 to like 120, 160 for one sleep cycle at night. So what I would recommend is, first of all, looking into how nighttime sleep is. Nighttime is a reflection of daytime sleep. If your little one is having night wakings, then you should fix that first before going into daytime sleep. So let's say in this case, nighttime sleep is pretty good, right? So what you would do during the day is you have to make sure the room is perfected. So you have blackout curtains, white noise machine, and you're placing your little one down at the proper sleep times when they are tired, and also creating a plan for yourself and how you are going to wean away from the stroller, meaning the cocoon-like state, and probably you have it rocking, so you need to get rid of motion. So I would work in stages. I would first split it up. I would work on the association first, which would be the repositioning from the stroller into the crib. That's one. Two is eliminating the rocking. So those are the two pieces that I would work on first within the stages. The second stage, what I would do is putting the timing. Actually, I would do the timing first, and I would do the associations then second. I would go that route, and then work on if there's anything with nighttime that has to get affected by it. So there are a couple of components that I would work on and put it into stages, like I mentioned. So I would kind of brain dump and then categorize everything to stages from the most important to the least important, and then work that way onto that. Hope that makes sense. My pleasure, Lena. Anna asks, my 14-month-old naps at 11:30 to 1, then 4 to 5:30. Her bedtime is 9:30. Is that too late? Should I take away one nap? I wouldn't take away one nap if your little one is having good sleep. If they are not waking up at night, it's not that bad. Probably when she's going to get closer towards 16 to 17 months, that last nap is going to be pushed out, and then what you're going to do is you're going to push the first nap later, and then bedtime is going to be pushed up. The reason why bedtime is so late is because her nap is so late, and that's kind of like where you are right now. It also depends on her morning wake up. So your schedule is kind of nor here nor there. I would want to know a little bit more about how nighttime is, because that affects with daytime. So I can't really adjust nap times without knowing what the situation is at night. So Anna, what I would recommend is for you to contact me on my scheduler, and then we could chat a little bit more about what's going on. If your little one doesn't have any night wakings, then I would stick to this. I wouldn't change anything. If they start having night wakings, then I would look into the schedule for the naps and what is happening. So if it's working for you, don't change it, keep it. If things are kind of not working and something's not meshing well, then I would look into the schedule and seeing what to do with that. Cool? Hope I answered your question well. So I think that's it for tonight. Hold on. Like my little Ninja Turtle cup? It has both sides. Don't tell my kids I took their cup, okay? My pleasure, Anna. Hi, Alla. So that's all for this evening. Sweet dreams, everyone. Love you. And I'm having a couple of more events that I'm putting together, and I will let you guys know the Keels event when I'm going to be redoing that. There's another one coming up. I believe it's April 8th. We're still finalizing that. It's going to be at Area Yoga in Brooklyn Heights. So if you live around that area, it's going to be an awesome event. I'm going to be doing semi mini private sessions with clients that are going to be attending to that event. So keep your eyes posted on my page, and I'll let you guys know about everything else. So if you have any other questions, if you're watching the replay, thank you so much, and type in your question. I'll be able to answer it later on. And if you love this video, please like it and share it. So that's all that I have for you guys tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Sweet dreams. Love you. Bye.